Hey, I'm Fox 10 investigative reporter Justin Lum. We are covering the Chad Daybell murder trial and have a special guest with me today as we have a break from the courtroom. Joined by Vicky Hoban, Tammy Daybell's aunt. Tammy, one of the victims in this tragic case. And Vicky, thank you for joining me. It's been a long week. Just tell me, how you feeling?
Um, it's always these things are up and down, but if I take the week as a whole, I feel pretty good about it. I think the prosecution did an amazing opening statement. Rob Wood has got his ducks in a row. He was able to set it out so that because it is a confusing timeline. And I think for a jury that hasn't really heard anything about the trial for the most part, he laid it out in a really succinct timeline so that they could really make sense of what happened when and who the players were. Um, I think that he's just super sharp. And then of course, we had um, Detective Hermosillo. He was on the stand for 2 days, and he was, the lead detective, and he's the one that found the kids. And so it's a super emotional day. I actually skipped out yesterday morning, and that was for the most part them uh, finding the kids and recovering the bodies. And Kate took the whole day off, which yeah, it's difficult to sit there and hear it over and over and over. And we've got enough of it coming up in the next 9 weeks. Um, but all in all, I think if I had to say who was, if I had to grade them and if it was a race track and who's ahead, I'm going to say the prosecution is killing it. They really are. Is a bad word actually, but really, I think they're really nailing it and really letting us know what happened, who the players are, when it happened. And I think that's really going to help the jury. And that's what it's all about. It's not about what we think or what anybody else thinks. Now it's up to these 12 people, and we're just praying that they're really tuned in. They appear to be very uh, attentive. They're interested. It's almost like watching a tennis match as they're watching, the questions and the answers and the questions and the answers. And that's when you really know they're listening, they're paying attention. Um, there were some tears shed by some of them yesterday. And, they're hearing these things for the first time. They're seeing them, they're horrific. And to be honest, one of them was a gentleman. And um, I think that really goes to what is reliving this is that it's such a horrible tragedy. And we've been hearing about it for, nearly 5 years. And I think these people are hearing it for the first time. And I think it just goes to show you um, how terrible it is. And you really, like I said, we've heard this story over and over and over, but this is the first time for these folks. And I just, I know they're really having some emotional pain from it, which is completely normal.
Is it like deja vu? How is this different compared to last year's Lori Vallow trial?
You know what? It's quite a bit different. We have a different prosecutor for the most part doing most of the questioning, and I think that you have John Pryor, who's I'm figuring him out. He's quite a personality, and he has a aggressive way of questioning. He was, kind of talking over Detective Hermosillo, which I know the judge did admonish him a couple of times. Um, so I wasn't used to that because last year it was a little bit more. I don't know. I don't want to maybe respect just as far as the attorneys, and the prosecutors. I think that might settle down a bit as we get going. I'm hoping that he can be a little bit more thoughtful. Um, But as far as I want to say, the biggest change is that one, the courtroom isn't packed full because it's televised. It's got we got have quite a few in there, but it's not like last year when they were just squeezing in. And then also we don't have the all of the Lori entertainment. She would walk in and she was laughing and joking, and I always thought it was disrespectful, but I guess that's neither here nor there now. But and Chad is extremely statuesque, if I could say. He just still very little looking around. When he wants the jury, it appears to me, because I'm kind of watching both, but when he wants the jury to believe a point, he nods his head. Other than that, you don't see much from him. He kind of has a side eye. Everybody's noticed that. He'll keep his head straight and look out the sides of his eyes. Really different.
That's interesting that you notice these mannerisms because, like, in that courtroom, out of everyone that's in there, you probably, I'm trying to think of who may know him better, have more experiences in life than you have. I mean, this is a guy who was married to your niece for nearly 30 years. You guys have been at birthday parties and reunions and all these family events, whether people are from in-state, out-of-state, Utah, Arizona, Idaho, or whatnot. There's just been so many moments shared, and you've always known his mannerisms. I don't know if they've changed too much. So I can only imagine there had to be a feeling that you're waiting to see him for the first time to walk into the courtroom. And if you could just describe that for me, and did you try to make eye contact with him or acknowledge him?
Yeah, the first day when we walked in, he was watching the door as everybody was watching, and they had him there. I believe he's shackled there. I might be mistaken, but I believe he's been brought in first, and I don't know if they have him now shackled, but I think jury process they did. Anyway, as we walked in the first day, he was watching the door, and yeah, we caught eyes just, and he looked away. I mean, it was just a brief second, and yeah, I'm not surprised by that. I am the only person there that knew him before, and like you said, birthdays, mission farewells, baby blessings, those types of things. Yeah, I mean, he's not really showing any kind of personality anymore, and I don't know if that's just what his lawyers told him to do. I don't know. I mean, he's never been real, gregarious, but as far as just like really sitting there like frozen, yeah, that's kind of surprising. And I don't know if that may change. I don't know. I'm a little bit confused by him actually not having any reaction to things. Um, I don't know. I mean, I guess I really never knew him. I don't really, it's hard to figure out because
I guess
he's
now,
a different person, you
yeah,
know?
I guess now after so long and what has transpired, you're like, did I even know that person? Like,
Yeah.
clearly, it's
Like,
a
well, for
person that you would
20,
never imagine that this would happen, right? Um, and you're the only person there, like you said, that knows him, really representing the side of Tammy's family. I'm sure it's been a long, almost 5 years. How's everyone on your side of the family, in your family, coping with this now that this is finally happening?
you know what? We don't talk because there's also, for the most part, the people that I talk to are subpoenaed. So we can't talk. We haven't talked to them since they've been subpoenaed. Um, I'm sure everybody is curious about what's going on and, wanting to know how the trial's going. But they can't talk to anybody. So I haven't talked to them. I'm sure they haven't talked to each other. We're rule followers in our family, just for the most part, except for Chad. And I think that everybody is really cautious and everybody takes it super seriously. So I just know how the people that aren't subpoenaed, like my own family and Ron. I think everybody is just, wanting this to get done, wanting the evidence to come out, wanting to get the verdict, and and hopefully having some kind of closure. I think that everybody is just doing the best they can. It's not ever not going to be an emotional subject for our family.
Of course, yeah. And I want to go back to opening statements to get your reaction to this. Maybe you had no surprise, but John Pryor just straight out called Lori Vallow this beautiful, vivacious, manipulative woman with, short-lived marriages, and Chad had a
Yeah.
clean record, had a speeding ticket or something. That was it. And she came into his life, and then that was it. That's when all of this started. So basically throwing her under the bus already to the jury, and then bringing up Alex Cox, her late brother. What were your thoughts on that?
I think the thing that made me the most upset during that portion of his opening statement was the fact that he was describing Lori like she was just this amazing bombshell, and just he was describing her looks and her personality. And I was thinking, wow, he's really making Chad sound like a really shallow individual. If he, because Tammy was a beautiful woman. Not only was she beautiful, but she was smart. She was talented. She had a good heart. She was a good mom. She was a good wife. She was all the things that a man wants in a wife. And then all of a sudden, Lori shows up one night, and because she's this gorgeous, vivacious, that was really off putting to me. I don't know what the jury thought of it. But yeah, he was basically running the bus over her like, uh, oh, Chad was just this little meek guy sitting behind a table selling books. And then Lori came behind, and, she was selling his books. And it's like, well, Tammy was selling his books for 20 years. Like, I don't,
What does it mean? Like, what is Pryor's point? What is he going to allude to? What is he going to bring out later? That Chad was a victim of a woman, a victim of an affair, a victim of seduction? I don't know, but
yeah.
it seems like he's implying that this woman came into his life and changed his world. But at the same time, like you said, Tammy was this great, strong, smart, beautiful woman who stayed by Chad's side for so long and helped him with this business. And number one, they had 5 kids together. They raised a whole family together. They became grandparents together. So when you see that, that just looks like the perfect American family from far away. And speaking of their kids, to hear that 3 to 4 will testify basically on behalf of the defense, did that shock you?
I have to say, well, my first reaction was I was upset. I was really disappointed. And because he described what their testimony was going to be. And what he said, and I don't know if this is going to come out or not. What he said was that they were going to testify to her poor health, and that she used concoctions and rubbed oil on her legs. And I'm thinking, what are you saying? Like, every woman has a cabinet in her bathroom full of stuff. That's what we do as women. And if they're going to come on and try to create an illness that she had, and she didn't have a fear of doctors, it's that's just not true. I talked to Phyllis and Ron, not even a week after she had visited them, and they were talking about how she and Samantha had come over, and they were clogging, and they were just having a great time, and she was doing great. There wasn't a secret cough. There wasn't anything wrong with her. She wasn't having pain. She was, I know that she had like, I think, sprained her ankle at one time a while ago. But that's just, I think that's just stuff that's just going to be if they come and do that, it's just going to not go anywhere, because she has had contact with all kinds of other people, teachers she worked with that saw her the day of, Friday, and she was fine. She was at school, happy, living her normal life. She was attending church. I mean, there was nothing that she was complaining of. And so to try and create an illness, or to have them come on and because he's gaslit them, or I don't even know. I'm trying to keep an open mind, because I'm trying not to be disappointed. But I'm thinking of my sister too, and what our conversation would be. And I'm thinking that is just not true if they come on and do that. But I don't know what's transpired between Chad and his kids. I don't know which kids. I don't know any of that. So I don't have any. I doubt that it's Mark, because he was on a mission. So I don't know. I just don't. I can't imagine any of them creating a scenario, because I think that his kids are honest to what they feel and know. So let's try and remember that when we're testifying.
Yeah, this got to be a tough spot for them, whichever 3 to 4 kids, that it's their mother. Their
Yeah,
mother. Their mother
yeah,
died, and then there's their father, who they basically lost. He's been gone for 4 years, almost 4 years. And we remember last year, Samantha, you were talking about Samantha, Tammy's sister, Samantha
mm-hmm.
William. For those who aren't, following too close, she testified last year and talked about the good health, the fitness that Tammy had, the happiness. I think that if you had some health concerns, your sister may know about it. Maybe not, but at the
Well,
same time, it
she
looked like
wasn't
she
one
was
to hide
healthy.
things. She wouldn't be one that would try and hide that from her mom or her sister, or like, we have doctors in our family. There's no fear there of going to the doctor if you're sick.
So a bold move by Pryor. He's saying that they're going to testify to her health struggles, but a medical examiner last year, the chief medical examiner of Utah, who did the investigation after Tammy was exhumed, says this is a homicide. She died by asphyxiation. We know that. That is now a record. And then the jury is going to find that out. So curious and interested to see how Pryor lays this out, but he says he has 4 experts, and specifically one of them being a DNA expert that helped Amanda Knox get exonerated. And they're going to try and poke holes in the state's case. So when you see that he's going to bring that out, which we didn't have a real defense last year as far as witnesses, this time we'll see that. But you know what the medical examiner said last year as fact. Does that anger you?
What This is the thing I don't understand is um I don't the experts that he has coming out, this one in particular that you're talking about, they are well known and respected in their fields. The issues are that we already know that Tammy died from asphyxiation at the hands of another. I don't know how that has anything to do with somebody rubbing lotion or oil on their legs. I don't know how they're going to try and put those two things together. But anyway, and then the other thing is Tylee. They're going to talk about that, and they know that. And he said he's going to testify that they don't know how she died. But we already know that. What? How are you going to help the defense? I don't get it. I don't know. I think his defense is all over the place, to be honest. And I don't know really what his strategy is. And, I've talked to Kay and Larry, and I've talked to other folks just that have interest in the case. And we've tried to figure it out. We've thought, well, could it be this? Well, that doesn't make sense. Well, could it be this? So maybe he's got a rabbit in a hat that we don't know about, but we know quite a bit about this case and what's already been proven. So I think he's going to have a struggle ahead of him.
Yeah, it's hard not to look back at last year's trial as for context, for information, because it's really the same case. I know the court said that Lori Vallow's case shouldn't be discussed, or her conviction, her being found guilty, but it's the same case. We are going to see at least the same evidence as last year, if not more. The prosecution may be bringing out some more DNA evidence. So, yeah, you're right. All three deaths have already been called homicides as far as the manner. We just don't know the cause of death for Tylee, because the conditions of her remains were just so horrible. It was so horrific that they had no cause of death. But the fact is, they are homicides. So this defense is going to have that challenge to try and poke holes in the state's case here. Now, you've been in the courtroom with your inner circle, which you really got close to last year. Kay and Larry Woodcock, J.J. Vallow's grandparents. What's it like to now be in round two and have them with you, and you guys have bonded through the first trial and even before that leading up to it, and now here you are and you have that camaraderie?
Yeah, I can't say enough about them. I mean, I love them to death. They're just such salt of the earth people. They just literally are here for the same reason I am, and that's to see justice done. I do think that we all have questions about where this, where Pryor is going with this. I think that's, we talk about that. We don't understand the strategy quite yet, and he's kind of laid it out, but it doesn't make sense. So I think having us here and able to talk about it and able to go have a meal and kind of sometimes we get a little emotional, sometimes we're analytical, but we're like a family here. There's 5 or 6 of us that are just like a family here, and we're just supporting each other as much as we can and just trying to get through it in the best way that we know how.
Quickly, do you see people in the jury that may be moms, dads, brothers, sisters? Maybe an easy answer because you can be so many things, but just wondering.
Justin, it is such a diverse group of people. It is. I looked at them like the first day, because I had watched jury selection, and so when they picked the jury, it was.
And that's grueling. Jury selection, that is a grueling process, right?
It is brutal. I mean, it's long, but I really respect it now. At first I was like, oh, this is, but then I was sat there and I was like, oh my gosh, like these people are really put through the ringer. I mean, that's why I can see now why, especially Judge Boyce, like the respect level that he gives them, because it is grueling. But then when they walked in the first day and I looked at them, I thought, where would you get this many diverse people in one room? I mean, it was crazy. It was so, they're all ages. They're grandmas, they're moms, they're single folks, they're accountants, they're, they're all athletic people. They're people that, just all over the board. Really, really interesting to me. And they are all, riveted. And that's, gosh, that's what you want. You just want people that are open, have open minds. They haven't formed an opinion, because Chad has his due process. He has the right to have a fair trial. And we want that. We definitely want that. We all have said we want him to have the trial that he deserves, because rightfully so, when he is convicted, there's not going to be any recourse for him. I mean, he can appeal. I know if he gets a death penalty, it will automatically go to the appeal process. On the other hand, I think this case is rock solid. I really do.
So you're very confident. You're confident in the case because you've seen it play out last year. You're confident in the jury who just witnessed and absorbed a lot just from one witness alone in Ray Hermosillo. Um, and you are predicting that they'll find Chad guilty.
I'm banking on it. My whole heart is there. I just want justice for her. That's it. And the kids. I just want it to be the right thing, that the punishment fits the crime.
And we saw this question asked to all the potential jurors about the death penalty. So, if convicted, do you favor the death penalty for Chad?
I don't really care. I really don't. I just I I that might be a favor for him. I don't know. I really don't care. I've thought about it a lot. I believe in the death penalty. If he gets it, then he gets it. If he doesn't, then he spends his life in prison. And you know, I mean, I can't imagine a day in prison. So I, I, I do think that if he's in prison, he'd probably be afraid every day of his life. And I think that, the fear that those kids had, knowing, especially Tylee, knowing what was coming down the pike for her and seeing the way things were going. And I mean, she must have been terrified. And I don't know that JJ, well, I think he thought, the world was just a beautiful place. And Tammy, I'm sure when that was happening to her, the amount of fear and hurt and pain, heartbreak, yeah, do I want him to feel that? Yes.
Okay, and just so we can lay this out for those who are watching right now, so we can bring recognition back to the three victims. 7-year-old J.J. Vallow, last seen in September of 2019, found dead and buried in Chad Daybell's backyard in June of 2020. Same thing, Tylee Ryan, last seen September 8th, 2019, found basically in horrific condition, buried in Chad Daybell's property on that same June 9th, 2020 day. Tammy Daybell, his wife of nearly 30 years, died suddenly in October of 2019. Her body was exhumed a couple months later, and all three deaths are determined to be homicides. Chad is facing first-degree murder charges, conspiracy to commit murder, and insurance fraud related to Tammy's case as well. Vicki, thank you so much for talking to me and catching me up on your week of trial, being in the courtroom, and just what you're going through, you and your family, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you too for keep the story alive for us, Justin.